So one of the things that's important to remember is that the way that Captivate handles our charity participation so that we can be fair to charities and so that you as charities don't have to sit there in front of your email, anxiously waiting for emails so that you can click register and be the first one. This is not getting your seat on Southwest Airlines. You don't have to play that game. We have an open registration period. We try and make that as long as we can. We try to close that about a week before the event so that there's time for us to go in and randomly select the people. So depending on how many slots we have available, if we have 10 people register and we have 3 slots, then we'll randomly select 3 of those 10. We do not do first come, first serve. So just be aware of that. If you see an email from us, you can breathe, you can go have lunch, you can go to the bathroom, you don't have to worry. You can come back and just anytime between then and the registration deadline, just go in and submit your information. You'll be placed, in a pending acceptance status. And once we've randomly selected, which like I said, is usually about a week out, you'll get an email from us either way. So I know that was one of the frustrating things in the past where you were wondering what's my status and maybe an email was only going out if you were confirmed. We are committed this year to sending you an email whether you are accepted or not. So be looking for that email. Just know that for some of the events that are not managed by Captivate or not, where we're not the ones actually hosting the event, where it's being hosted by a campaign worker at the local level, it may be 4 days before the event that we actually hear about it. That it actually ends up on the calendar. So we're going to get things up on the calendar as soon as humanly possible once we know about them. There are already some events that are up on the calendar. You'll see them when I go to that. So we're already starting to add events. They're going to continue to be added on a rolling basis. So just know that for some of the events, it may be a day or 2 before the event that you get that confirmation, but we will get it out to you as soon as we can. For those of you that are selected to participate, you'll get a confirmation email that will contain all the pertinent details. So if it's a virtual event, you'll get the Zoom information like you did for this event. You'll get any other key information. It'll tell you if it's a speaking event, it'll tell you that you have 5 minutes or, you have 3 minutes to speak or, hey, we're going to have door prizes. So please have available 3 things that we could give away as a door prize. Or in some cases, we might do like charity bingo and we want some questions from you that we can ask of participants. So we'll tell you what we need from you for that particular event. We'll also send a reminder email the day before or the day of the event. Again, repeating all of that information. On the day after the event, and you'll get one tomorrow from us as well, so I hope you'll fill it out, you'll get an event feedback form. So we want your feedback about the events. How did it work? How was it for you? We want, especially this year with it being so crazy because of COVID and dealing with a lot of stuff that's virtual. We want that feedback on an ongoing basis so that we can continue to improve the process. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over. Cindy, I did see there were a couple of questions. I noticed that you're answering them. Are there any I should stop and make sure we address?
Yes, I want to make sure that I address a couple of these. One of them said, how many charities can we expect on the average will be at each event? It really is going to depend. It's going to depend on the time. It's going to depend on the size. It's going to depend on our capacity. Everything is really going to be depending. And what we see, or what I think will happen is, because we are virtual in many ways or almost entirely, we'll see national and international charities have more opportunities because we're not limited by transportation or travel. So we'll see more activity there. If you are a local charity, you can only, of course, actively participate in your local zone information or activities. But it's going to be different for every event. As Jen said, in the confirmation, we'll give you those details. We're going to go through and show you where to look to find those details of what we're looking for. Another thing that someone had asked is, let's see. One of the questions was if they've been invited, does that mean that they're not going to be invited again? I would say apply for everything, register for everything. It is a random process. We do want to, share the wealth. So we want to make sure that, if you're registering all the time, I mean, again, it's purely random. So, but we also have opportunities with cause activities. Some organizations or some agencies want to have an event related specifically to a cause, or if it's the cause week, that might be an open invitation, because for those activities, those causes would take precedence. There is a question about if you write a speech or two, what's the length? I would always suggest every charity have like their elevator speak. They have their elevator speech that they're ready to go at the drop of a hat to tell their organization, 30 seconds, what do you do, when, what, that kind of thing. And you should always have that in your back pocket. In regards to the time and the length that you would have during any of these events, it really depends. It might be a 3-minute, it might be 10 minutes. If you have something for 15 minutes, like a lunch and learn or a panel discussion, then you might have opportunities to, of course, share a lot more information, have a client come talk. But those details for each individual event, it will be very individualized, will be given into that information. There are events open, and Jen will show you that in a moment. So yes, we will let you know what length of the presentation is ahead of time, so you'll have that information. I think I may have captured everything. I hope.
There are two other questions. I know Lisa had said in terms of not getting the communications. I know we had this issue come up on the last call. The list that we use to communicate with charities, we get that from OPM. So based on your application to become part of the CFC, there's an administrator or some main person, and that we get a single email from OPM, and so that's who it's going to. So a couple of options if you're not getting it. One is to find the person who's getting it and make sure they forward them on. Another one would be, for Captivate zones, we are committed to communicating with you. So if you have multiple people in your organization that should be getting these communications, reach out to Cindy, send her an email. We will add you into our database. I want to be clear that will only affect our 11 zones. So we'll fix it for any of our zones that are impacted, but you may have to reach out to, the other OCs as well, if that's something where you need communications. And as Cindy said, there's a total of 4 different OCs across the 37 zones. So just be aware of that.
We have one more question before we go, and then we're going to kind of jump in. So, we'll still respond during chats, but we have a question of if you're here today, do you have to go to all the different zone trainings as well? And the answer is no.
At least not for our 11 zones.
Except, yeah. I mean, the information, some of our zones will be doing local trainings similar to this for their local charities and local federations, but the information that you hear, most of it is going to be very, very similar. So it's not, we don't require it, but you'll get information if they are doing something.
Yes, like I said, I'm going to go through the process. I know somebody had said that asking our events open for registration. They are open now, the ones that we know about. So if you're seeing things and on the calendar, so that I'll show you on this particular calendar, there are things on here like the CFC donor portal opens. Well, that's not an actual event. It's just a point in time that we put on the calendar. Same thing with the cause weeks. So these are not events. You'll see when you click on more details, it doesn't do anything. But there are some events in here. So you'll see the Get Engaged events from here that are on here. You'll also see, I'm going to go down. I'll show you the navigation. So sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Let me back up. So this is our all Captivate Zones charity events list. So this is one of our really cool new things that we did. We heard the pain particularly from our national and international charities and the federations, where going to all the individual zone websites was a big pain and a waste of time. So at least for the 11 Captivate zones, you can go to one centralized calendar now. I know some of you are still zone specific or local charities. So you'll be happy to know you can still go to the local zone calendar if you choose. And under charities, you can just select the events list and you'll see a list of events just for that zone. This cross-zone calendar, as I said, covers all of our 11 zones. It has filtering functionality. So if you wanted to see just those events with speaking opportunities for charities, you can select that and it will query that list. You can also further query by zone if you want to. So if I want only the ones in the mountain states, you can do that. We have a really cool feature that I call my new to you feature. So I can come in here and based on a date added, I can come in here and say, I only want to see the events that were added last week that have charity engagement opportunities. So you can go ahead and use that to query and get this list down so that you can help identify what you want to do. And you'll see we also have by event type. And as we continue to add events, you'll see additional event types. So we will have employee engagement events. The reason you don't see that as an event type is because right now those types of events have not been added, or they don't involve charities. They're just for employees only. But you will be able, and you have event type, you have the agency sector. So you'll see things here like Postal Service or USPS, you'll see military, you'll see Fed Civ, so that you'll have that information as well. Once you narrow it down, you'll see there's a circle down here. I'm going to go ahead and unselect the zone or unselect this so you can just see I'll have two events now. So you'll see underneath the more details, there's a little bubble, and that little bubble tells you what zone it is so that you will have that information there if you're looking at a list of events. And of course, you have the event date, you have the event time. So looking at this one, you'll see that you got to do a little bit of math. So you have one at 10:30 in the mountain time, and then you have one at 12 in the Pacific time. So yeah, you could sign up for both of those potentially because they're not conflicting. If you're a national charity, you could potentially sign up for both of those. When you click on more details, you'll see a little bit more details. So here, somebody asked the question for this particular event. There are 4 charities. And it's 5 minutes or less. So hopefully some of the information that you need to know will be right here in the event details, and you can look at that. Then to register, you just click go to event registration site. Again, it'll repeat those details. You'll just click register now. So the first thing you'll have to do is select the registration type. So for all of you, it should be all of you are independent charities if you signed up for the right training. If for some reason you're a federation or a federation member, the process works the same. You would just pick federation member. But for now, for today, I'm going to pick independent charity. And then I'm going to click on next. So it's going to collect certain information from you. It's going to collect your charity name. You're going to put in your CFC number. You're going to say whether you're a national charity, an international charity, a local charity. You're going to put your name in. You're going to put your email address in. The phone number, we collect that. That's so that if the event organizer, sorry about that. That's if the event organizer needs to get a hold of you at the last minute. Maybe there's been a change or something's going on. So we definitely want to make sure we have that. How did you hear about the event? I'm just going to say from the zone website. In most cases, you can have a second person participate with you at all. So you can click add representative. And you can add that person's contact information again. What doing that does for you, we know about them, but they also then get copies of the emails. So they'll know what's going on. They'll get the information to be able to sign up and all of that, in addition to whoever the primary person is. I did see a question from Nicole. She said, if we're a national charity and a federation, which category would we choose? You would choose federation. And so basically the difference between the two processes is pretty much identical. The difference with the federation one is that then you can select what federation you belong to. And it's just so that we can provide reporting back to the federation so they know what's going on with their members. If you don't, your federation may not find out about you. That's all. Well, go rogue on your federation.
in addition, basically the federation's role based on federal regulations and guidance is to communicate with their member charities. So we're not really supposed to be communicating and reaching out to specific member charities. It's the federation's role to do that. So we're not allowed to do that. There was a question about from someone saying, okay, so if you're a national member of a charity, we're going to have to go on here every day or two to see what's going on. And I would say yes. What I would suggest to you also is some of our CFC zones, like my zones, for example, I direct 3 zones. We'll be sending an invitation like we did last year to all the national charities and international charities saying, hey, do you want to be on a list for every other week or so to get a list of things that we've already updated for the last 2 weeks of the events that are coming on. And, if you selected that you wanted to participate in that, then we would send you an email as well on that. But that is in addition, and not each of our zones do that. It depends on what that policy is and what the LSC wants. So, but yes, you would. And it's really nice, though, to make it a little bit easier for you. At least you don't have to scroll through everything that's been on there over and over, because Jen showed you the area on the filter where you can actually say, as of last week, what was new. And so it's a little bit easier for you to check and be able to see what's new, so you don't re-register for events that you've already did or signed up for or looked at.
Yeah. And the system will prevent you from re-registering. It knows that you are in there already. And certainly having that national calendar across all the zones, it does save you from having to go to, as we said, all different 11 zones to find those events. You could just go to a single calendar in a single place if your organization crosses one or more zones.
There's a question from Andrew about, does this apply if you're both national and international charity and you weren't able to select both when registering? You need to pick one. That's fine. Just to let you know, as they come about, we put them on the calendar as soon as possible. But oftentimes when we're talking to people, federal agencies within their own agency, they may call us and say, oh, we have an event tomorrow. So we do it as fast as possible. Our goal is to get it into the system within 3 days before. If we know about a program, our goal is to get it into the system within 3 days of receiving it. And actually, our goal is to get it done faster, but at minimum of 3 business days after we get the request for an activity.
And I'll add just real quick to Andrew's question about, if you sort of fall in the national and international categories. That's just something that we're using for internal reporting purposes. So there's really no super right or wrong answer. Let me just finish this. I kind of looked down at the clock, so I'm going to go through this process. I do have a hard stop. I have another meeting at 2. So, but we can always answer additional questions later on. Let me go through. We have the next page is just the acknowledgements. It says, I acknowledge, I'll behave and I'll abide by the rules. That's all you're doing here. You can read it on your own time, and then hit next. It'll ask you to confirm your registration details and then hit submit. So when you submit, as I said, you'll get an email saying that it's pending, and then you'll get those series of emails.